Hello there, you're welcome to Business Today. Thank you for joining us for this particular bulletin. I'm Ronah Nahabwe, and with me is Anaka, which understand language interpretation. Before we head right into it, here is a quick look at our top stories.
East African Petroleum Conference kicks off, and private sector advises regional states to form combative financial task force to check oil revenue leakage. IMF is set to cut funding by 36%. Uganda and Sub-Sahara Africa bound to forge prudent alternative funding mechanism. And Kavadi Kisoro Road remains unmortable following torrential rains and mudslides. Government dedicates relief package for afflicted.
You're welcome once again to Business Today. Now, to kick it off, let's begin with optimizing regional oil and gas sector. Now, as delegates from various parts of East Africa converge for the much-anticipated three-day East African Petroleum Conference, deliberations have been made on regional oil and gas financing, prioritizing local content and prospects in the local emerging sector. The conference will focus on exploring the current state of regional petroleum industry and identifying opportunities for growth and development.
East Africa its position as a prominent investment hub for petroleum resources. This commitment will further be demonstrated through this year's East African Petroleum Conference, which promotes the area's petroleum potential and investment prospects on a rotational basis. Her Excellency Major Jessica Alupo conveyed President Museveni's message, emphasizing the conference's relevance at a time when East Africa is actively pursuing regional integration.
Gain momentum. Our integration program has 4 key milestones, namely customs union, common market, monetary union, and political federation. These 4 pillars of integration are the pivot around with which integration in all aspects within East Africa is taking place. I assure you that the political leadership in the East African community is fully committed to the full integration.
It has been revealed that Uganda will potentially produce an estimated 1.4 to 1.7 billion barrels of petroleum reserves annually out of the regional 2.7 billion barrels. Notably, Honorable Eddie Karuhanga, a keynote speaker, raised concerns about the importance of establishing an efficient task force within the region to ensure proper management of oil and gas resources. He emphasized the significant financial losses that could occur if these valuable resources are mishandled.
I urge everyone to work together to ensure that East Africa becomes a leading investment hub in petroleum resources. It is achievable, it is doable. And with proper support, collective effort, we can do it. Let's form a task force of government and private sector to address these challenges. We have an opportunity of $10 to $20 billion. It is not government, it is not usual business. Let's form a task force and see how we can take this. The other day on Sunday, I listened to our head of Petroleum Authority, Mr. Ernest Rubondo. He was on Twitter Spaces with Elson Karuhanga. And he said, if I remember, he said a lot of very many good things. But what I'm sure about is he said to us that this opportunity we have in Uganda is unprecedented, and it is something we must harness and achieve and deliver. So, to get 20 billion, he said that he's aiming at 40% staying in country. 40% of 10 billion is 4 billion. Of 20 billion is 8 billion. If that money stays here, with the local businessmen here and women, this, Ernest was saying, imagine what our country will be like.
Uganda's Albertine Graben boasts of 6 sedimentary basins and is considered the most explored for oil and gas resources. However, successful implementation of such projects requires substantial financing. Although financing challenges exist, particularly for ECOP and other blocks, the minister has assured Uganda that sustainable finances will be secured. Despite these obstacles, the country has seen achievement of several contracts worth $6.7 billion, including $1.7 billion awarded to local contractors.
First of all, I feel bad that the financing institutions can choose to pull out at this stage. And secondly, I have confidence that we shall get the money anyway. We shall get the money for this project. And we are going on. We are going ahead with our plan because this is not a project to be abandoned. The good thing is that we are working together with oil companies. We are working with Total, we are working with CNOOC, and we have made sure that the environmental issues have been taken care of. So what reason? And lastly on this is that we want to handle the SDGs holistically. We are looking at the East African crude oil pipeline as one of the projects that will bring in money to fight poverty.
The Petroleum Authority has approved so far is about 6.7 billion United States dollars. And we see that about $1.7 billion of this is actually going to Ugandan companies. The total number of companies that have got contracts are about 640. And we're seeing that about 490 of these are actually Ugandan companies. It's also important to know that the contracts that have been given so far are the ones at the high level.
While Uganda awaits the signing of the final investment decision for the refinery, the Ministry of Kenya and the Republic of South Sudan reported on their respective advancements in the field and their anticipations for the conference.
In Kenya today, we're learning from Uganda. You know, we did discover oil a number of years after Uganda. And we are at the field development phase. So we're currently reviewing the field development plan to basically confirm the commerciality and the financial, the technical and commerciality aspects of basically pulling out the product. We should be able to do that in a short while, and then once approved through the parliament, we should be able to allow the companies that are prospecting to work us in another 3 years to final investment decision. And so when we come here, and with our brothers and sisters in Uganda working through this umbrella organization, we're able to walk the journey. And then basically,
we have been in the business of oil and gas for the last 20 years, meaning we have accumulated wealth of experience, both in terms of skilled personnel and experience that we have. And with this conference, we are ready to support our neighboring countries. We are ready to support them in terms of skilled personnel and capacity building and all these other things, because we already have the experience for the last 20 years. So we are here to look into the growth of our neighboring countries and see how we can support them in the long run and how we can get involved in providing them services in what we have already been doing in the country. In South Sudan.
Efficient and responsible utilization of petroleum resources has the potential to drive significant socio-economic transformation, as demonstrated by countries such as Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Norway. However, it is crucial to acknowledge that amidst the ongoing energy transition, oil and gas activities contribute to the greenhouse burden. Consequently, a more comprehensive and effective approach is recommended to address the challenges posed by the energy trilemma, ensuring sustainable development, environmental stewardship, and a secure energy future for generations to come. Ronah, Nahabwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, members of Parliament on the national economy have disagreed with the Ministry of Finance over $200 million loan to finance investment on and industrial transformation that will eventually address unemployment. Currently, Uganda has an IMF credit outstanding amount over $812 million in special drawing rights plus a threatening public debt yet to be resolved. Samla Hanifa has more of this report.
The National Economic Committee has denounced government's move to borrow $200 million from the World Bank. The rebounded loan was first presented in Parliament on the 5th of last month, and the Speaker directed the Committee on National Economy to scrutinize it before discussion. Before legislators today, Finance State Minister Henry Musasizi advised the committee to warrant the loan, citing collateral benefits, which include financing small and medium enterprises, plus employment opportunities to over 200,000 Ugandans.
Proposal to borrow up to special drawing rights, $68.6 million, an equivalent of $96 million US dollars, and a grant of special drawing rights, $74.3 million, an equivalent of $104 million US dollars from the World Bank to finance investment for industrial transformation and employment project.
On the other hand, the legislators have expressed their disappointment with Ministry of Finance over presenting the loan, which they find loose and unnecessary at a time when the country is grappling with huge debts.
Given our history and how the past loans have been abused, referring to Rule 178 of our Rules of Procedure, I want to invite you, Mr. Chairman and colleagues, that let us not be enticed by the $104 million US dollars, and then we accept to pass this loan. Let us reject this loan because it is not urgent for us as a country now. We have many problems that are pressing us.
Chair, you realize this loan is talking about COVID, it's talking about 2020, 2021, meaning this loan was purposed to be used immediately after COVID. Over time, it seems we have gone through it. We are recovering right now, but I'm wondering the urgency we have on this loan. If you look at all your literature, the literature you first sent us, I was wondering, I asked colleagues on the platform, is this loan meant to be passed now, or it was a COVID loan?
Uganda has continuously had to sustain its increasingly untenable debt burden as loans, commitment and interest fees compound. In 2020, Parliament approved a similar $491 million loan with a grant component of $177.61 million to support the manufacturing sector as well as the small-medium enterprises managed by Uganda Development Bank. According to legislators, the money hasn't yet been fully utilized.
It would be better, or will private sector foundation have the data of SMEs that previously benefited from the same similar loan? I think there's something that needs to be highlighted. We'll facilitate new investments in productive and transformative assets and is expected to generate direct and indirect employment of more than 200,000 workers. Is this realistic? $200,000. Are we talking about, because this addresses unemployment?
Because in the presentation where the minister hinted about the measures to manage public debt, he said that by controlling and reducing borrowing. So if the minister knows that reducing borrowing is one of the measures that we can manage public debt, and is here to tell us that we should borrow.
The contested loan has two components, $96 million and the $104 million as a grant, facilitated by World Bank through Bank of Uganda and Private Sector Foundation. The committee has, however, demanded for loan performance summary from the Ministry of Finance before more discussions. Samlanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, as Uganda and Africa maintain reliance on external funding, there is growing anxiety following IMF's decision to cut funding by 36%. Bank of Uganda and leading economists have in turn talked out mechanisms to address the dire funding squeeze that has sent shockwaves through the region and caused relentless pressure in the sub-Saharan region.
Growth in sub-Saharan Africa is expected to stick around the 3.6% mark this year due to the IMF's reduced funding, persistent global inflation, and tighter monetary policies, hence a global slowdown. Uganda, just like many African countries, has relied on external borrowing for their budget financing. A 36% drop in the financial institutions' funding will affect development sectors like infrastructure, education and health that have been already underfunded with the limited domestic revenues.
While we are doing much better in Uganda than the median sub-Saharan African country, this is true for the short term. This is true for those macroeconomic imbalances that are not prevalent in Uganda. We have a rather stable environment, debt is sustainable, fiscal deficits are coming down, inflation is coming down. But the long-term perspective is not very optimistic. And this is because, to go back to the funding splits, to ensure catch-up, to ensure that the potential growth goes back up, we need fiscal, macroeconomic stability is a necessary condition, but it's not a sufficient one. We need to find a way to invest more in economic growth.
Sub-Saharan Africa's public debt ratio at 56% of GDP in 2022 has reached levels last seen in the early 2000s, driven by widening fiscal deficits because of overlapping crises, slower growth and exchange rate depreciations. Uganda's public debt remains at a high 86.6 trillion shillings, weakening the country's debt financing ability and exposing it to more external shocks.
Maybe let me say Uganda, and indeed many African countries, we don't export enough. Uganda exports goods worth $2 billion and it imports goods worth $6 billion. Our brothers and sisters who are in the diaspora send us $1 billion. So what we need to do is we need to get that gap, $3 billion. So we go to IMF and they lend us the money. But how long can they lend us this money? So they are now telling us this money is getting less and less. So there are a number of things that come up. One is the debt problem.
In light of deteriorating financing options, Uganda Revenue Authority together with Ministry of Finance are exploring broader domestic revenue mobilizations. However, this is yet to be fully exploited due to the existing challenges that have hindered investment and created disincentives for businesses and individuals to participate in the formal economy.
You get low tax revenues as a ratio of GDP. Normally we get tax to GDP of around 13-14%. In rich countries they can go up to 40%. So when you get a low tax revenue, people think that you are misusing the money, and therefore that's why you have potholes in the road, etc. Therefore you are not credible. No, the problem is that we have a low tax effort, what we call tax effort, low tax collection. So one of the ways, therefore, you see in the budget is really to enhance tax collection.
Regional growth is anticipated to pick up from 3.6% to 4.2% in 2024 by adapting the already contested tight monetary policy, plus financing of key sectors like agriculture, infrastructure, and health.
Financing agriculture, by the way, is very, very hard, especially because volatility, and we do not have natural wealth, that can support. The other thing is, actually, in most of our countries, we do not have commercial farming models. We use traditional farming models. So when you don't have commercial farming models, which means the whole ecosystem, the whole chain, it's all, if I produce, who do I sell to? Is there a short consumption model? Is there a short production model? So it's a circular economy that we need to look at.
Without adequate funding, the region may struggle to meet its development goals, jeopardizing the well-being of workforce and hindering progress. It is therefore imperative for policymakers and stakeholders to integrate sustainable solutions for investment and long-term economic prosperity. Martha Nimsima, Smart 24 GOTV Business Today.
Now moving on to innovation efforts, government has devoted extra efforts to widen digital skills and uptake of technology and subsequent services. Employers are calling for robust skilling as government through the Science and Technology Ministry, Dr. Monica Musenelo, advocate for upgrade for digital integration and skilling, which has continuously proved critical in numerous production sectors.
A huge gap in the digital transformation still exists, and uptake of digital skills among youth compounds a bigger task, with an estimated 87.9% ignorant about the internet usage. As the country embraces tech-based services exhibited in the various sectors such as finance, agriculture for instance, adherence to shift is expected to contribute to improvement of the gross domestic product, as pointed out by the Employers Federation.
A lot has changed and technology is playing an important role in this. Secondly, for a country like Uganda, we are lagging behind as far as digital skills is concerned. Just a few years ago, in 2021, we did the National Labor Force Survey. And one of the findings of that survey was very disturbing for me. 87.9% of our population who are aged 10 years and above have never accessed the internet. But we are speaking about the digital age. But the very basic one, which is access, is not possible for quite a number of us.
More than 82,000 youth are benefiting from the industry and enterprise-based trainings for both formal and informal sectors. According to Omar Farouk Ibrahim, Secretary General of Africa Petroleum Producers Organization, youth employment gap still exists and there is need for public-private sector collaboration.
The challenge of youth employment is a significant challenge in many African countries, including in Uganda. And it's a challenge that cannot be tackled by one single actor, by one single stakeholder. So there is a need for a collaborative approach from all the segments of our societies, the private sector, the civil society, the government, and the international organization.
Dr. Monica Musenero, the Minister of Science and Technology, confirms that government is tracking and identifying inventors to equip them with necessary skills crucial for long-term development. More funding has been put in place to facilitate the establishment of small businesses.
Done a lot of thinking, and we have studied the roadblocks of entrepreneurs, despite the abundance of support, and government may not be providing, but all these friends of ours are providing a lot of these opportunities. We are seeing very few sustainable businesses coming out of our innovations. And so we have support services, advisory on how to go to get funds. We call it preparing, we prepare innovators and small businesses for funding.
Recently, government, Gs and other stakeholders embarked on the national backbone infrastructure to extend access to high-speed and affordable internet, improve efficiency of digitally enabled public service delivery, and strengthen digital inclusion in Uganda. Samuel Chirumunda, Masi Katsime for Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
We will now take a short break, but we will return with more. Please keep it Smart 24.